Hello, welcome to everyone. This is the third episode of a series of events on migration from Southeast Asia to Europe, which is a collaboration of SEA-Junction, the organization I had, public venue focusing on Southeast Asia in collaboration with the Global Alliance Against Traffic in Women, also based here in Bangkok, but is a network of organizations working all over the world, including in Asia and Europe. We are interested in understanding more the roots as well as what is happening to the women that migrate from Asia to Europe in this particular series, while we have other activities that focus more general on other migration trends. This is the second event that focuses on Vietnam. Not much is known about Vietnam. This is why I think also in Southeast Asia, we don't hear much about migration from Vietnam. This is why we really want to give the due attention. The last time we had the pleasure of launching a book that has been done about experience of women in Vietnam. And today we continue more about, so that was more general about migration of women from Vietnam to other countries, and particularly the various points in the migration routes from preparation to leave, to leaving, and to return, up to return to Vietnam. Today we are going to focus more on the really the route from Vietnam to Europe. So I will give the words first to GAATW Ong. As I said the last time, she's a dear friend as well as a leading expert on migration in Vietnam. Because of family reasons, she will need to leave us soon. So please, Ong, and you can initiate, and then your colleague Ong Yen will take over.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leah. Actually, it's our dream to sketch out the flow of the migration of Vietnamese women to work in Europe. That's our long time dream, but we haven't yet able to do it. But we keep thinking about this all the time. I think today is our opportunity to share our very initial thought, rather than even the data. We have very little, but anyway, I think we start with the idea, and with the discussion today, we hope that we will continue expanding our idea and looking for the opportunity to actually do research on that's the very important topic, actually a very important flow of migration to work for Vietnamese women to Europe. Looking back at our history, we believe that Vietnamese women migrated to work to Europe long time ago, at least in the during the colonial time, when French occupied Vietnam. And then I believe that the number of women migrate to work in France, in the French colonia. Of course, men dominated the flow, but women, I'm sure that there's number, but we haven't yet digging the sources. We will try to do so, but in our previous seminar, I have presented some information about the working migration from Vietnamese men and women to socialist country in Europe, including Soviet Union, East Germany, Bulgaria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and Poland. After Vietnam adopted renovation in 1986, In the collapse of Soviet bloc, Vietnam stopped sending workers to those countries, but focus on our migration strategy to the Asian country, and more likely to Northeast Asia, like South Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and some other Southeast Asian country like Malaysia, Singapore, and Brunei, and some to the Middle East. But the majority Vietnamese worker migrate to East Asian country like South Korea, Taiwan, and Japan. Currently, about 95% of Vietnamese workers migrate to work in these 3 East Asian countries. Very few migrate to work to Europe. This year, for example, there's few hundred people migrate to work to Romania, to Poland, to Hungary, Hungary, yeah, about 5 countries, Germany as well. Just accounted for 5% only. I think it's because Vietnam hasn't yet able to sign a contract with those countries who I believe that have increased the demand of worker. For example, worker in the nursing area like Germany, or in some other manufacturing and food product, food processory like Poland or Romania, Bulgaria. But of course the number is very small. Talking that way, I would like to say that the few number of Vietnamese workers go to work to European country through the efficient way, like a contract-based worker, not to say about the informal or irregular, or like we often say the illegal flow of worker. We know for sure that many people go cross border to work in Russia for the Vietnamese, the company in Russia, where they are severely exploited and unprotected and working in a very, very poor condition. We know for sure that Vietnamese workers illegally cross border between Russia, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Czech to Germany and to France, and from France or Germany they go to the UK. We know that there's the large number of Vietnamese, people, including very young people, migrate illegally to the UK for the very dangerous industry, growing cannabis or illegal substances, the tree, and to Germany as well. We have a very large community of Vietnamese in former socialist country like Germany, Poland, Czech, Hungary. So Vietnamese people have many ways to go to these the country, joining their relative and friend and stay for work. If you go to Germany, for example, we have a very large market in Berlin, sharing the same name with the largest market in Hanoi, Dong Xuan, where many Vietnamese workers have find job there, doing all kind of work, sending food and selling vegetable and doing all kind of business in Poland as well, in Czech, in Hungary. In Hungary, they have about a community of Vietnamese people. There's about 5,000 people, and they have a very big market where the Vietnamese dominated. I don't say it is black market, but there you can find many things, and I believe that there's a lot of kind of business and all kind of work there. Many people migrate there with from the different route. But I would say that the Vietnamese diaspora is about expanding. I know for sure that there's a study the scholar and researcher in Poland, Czech, and Germany about the Vietnamese community in those countries. Very interesting. We one day we believe that we'll review those literature article and try to find out the commonality and try to link with those information that we have so far know in Vietnam, and that's the way we can be able to establish the route from Vietnam to those countries and the dynamics, as well as hopefully that we can have a picture of the Vietnamese community in those countries and find out the commonality, find out the linkage from Vietnamese community in those countries, because they cross border in Europe very frequently, and connected very closely. So I believe that the topic will be very interesting. We have difficulty to collect the statistic from our government regarding the number of workers working in European country at the moment, because the number is so small, and it seems that it's not interested. The government is really not interested yet to the trends or pattern of the Vietnamese worker to those countries, but we will try to find a way to collect the data over time and to see the dynamic and the chain. Yeah, saying so, I think I have no more to share in terms of specific information, but then my colleague, Dr. Ian, will continue sharing with you some information, and I think we pose more questions than providing information, but we believe that many people in the room interested in Vietnam, and I hope that among you there's people who do some research on Vietnamese worker in Europe, and we are looking forward to learning from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, On, and best wishes for your father. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, Yan, maybe you can just continue. So you are in the same organization as On, one of the leading NGO focusing on migration, trafficking, and many other issues, including sexual and reproductive health and other gender issues. So please.
Thank you so much, Ian. Thank you for firstly, I would like to apologize. Sorry.
The sound is not good.
Oh,
No?
sorry. Is it better now?
Yeah, now it's better. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I have to apologize because this workshop is overlapping with my travels, and so I, I had to find a place to sit, and so apologies for any distraction in background. You can't smell it, but there's very nice smell of coffee here as well. Yeah, so I miss home basically just I think very briefly took you through a history a little bit of women, especially migrants, especially women, Vietnamese women going to Europe. And I think what I have to share is more of a picture that is more recent picture because, after COVID, there is now the push really to send more workers. I've prepared a very fast, a very, very short presentation. Nevertheless, I would love to share this with you, if that's okay. I have a lot to share.
Yes, please.
It says screen sharing has started.
Okay. You can share the screen. Yeah.
Is it okay now?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, all right. Could I please also know how many minutes? I know because I know we're supposed to have 12, and I think this is how much we took a lot of that 12 minutes already. Hello?
Okay, I think you can start.
Could I please know how many minutes we have? Like maybe 5, 6, so that I know what to skip and what. All right, maybe I will just continue and you let me know when you'd like me to stop. All right, so just wanted to show this. I think a lot of us who works in migration, especially this flow from Asia to EU, we are very familiar with this. But I would like to provide a little bit of context on Asia and EU dialogue on labor migration and see and just see what countries are there. Obviously, on the Asian side, we have Vietnam is a part of it, and in the often receiving states, which are the EU countries, you can see also a lot of those countries in Europe. Majority of almost all of the countries in Europe. So just a little bit for the context, and I will tell you now which particular states Vietnam has a contract or a memorandum of understanding with. So as of now, like a month ago, Vietnam has signed MOU with only 4 countries, which is Germany, Romania, Czech Republic, and Bulgaria. This is the MOU with the regarding particular skill set or at the governmental level. But a lot of different agencies, they are also allowed to have a contract. So a lot of agencies are approved by Department of Overseas Labor under the Minister of Labor, Invalid and Social Affairs in Vietnam. So they are appraised and approved to supply kind of contract on some markets, to some markets in Europe, especially, and focus on a number of jobs only. So you can see here a list of it. So for example, in Poland, it's welding, mechanics, food processing. Cyprus is agriculture. Slovakia is electric-related work, and Belarus is construction, welding, and carpentry. So in bold, I have put the ones where there will be also women migrants. We don't have actual number. It's very, very hard to data is a very challenging aspect in Vietnam. But in the ones that I've highlighted, I put in bold, you can see that there are women migrants also participating. Well, in a lot of like industrial, like welding, mechanics, or woodworks, there will be majority of men actually. So, and I know that today we focus on female migrants. So I just wanted to also put this for the context. So wanted to also mention this too, because they are a little bit opposite. I mean, they are very different. So for example, like I just mentioned, both Germany, there's a MOU signed with Germany, but with Germany, both countries mainly focuses on highly skilled workers, especially nurses. That's something that Ms. Congress mentioned, and they are under government program. So they will actually have very no to low fee. There's very good and friendly policies for these migrants. And there's a possibility to stay in long term and even get a permanent citizenship in Germany. So it's very, very attractive. And because it's the nature of the job, which is nursing, it actually attracts both male and female, and a lot of them are very young people. On the contrary, to Romania, the workers are not required to have too high of the skill, but they just need the working experience in the field of food processing, construction, mechanic, apparel, or household production. But then there's also a higher fee, and even the process is a little bit more complicated. So even within one region, we know Germany and Romania are not too far from each other. On the map, the way the migration happens, the process and the needs and requirement is already a little bit different. So this is from the most recent report from the Ministry of Labor, Environment and Social Affairs. In short, we call it MOLISA. So in the post-COVID-19 recovery period, because we actually Vietnam really wants to speed up, this whole process. We want to recover economy as soon as possible, and one of the ways is obviously, being able to send migrant workers overseas again. So during the COVID, countries like Japan, South Korea, or Taiwan, they would that migration pathway would still happen. But with, for example, people that went illegally or the ones to Europe was actually much more limited. So so normally it takes a year, 6 months to a year for different programs, but on average it's 6 months to a year for a migrant to actually leave the country, right? And there's obviously the whole process of preparing documents, pre-departure trainings, and so on. So now, in order to speed up this migration process of workers, the government actually has been a little bit not lenient, however, it's been more, I think, friendly with all these departure stages. Everything happens in parallel. For example, documentation, visa application, parallel with the departure training. Basically, so that everything can, as migrants can leave earlier. So they work very closely now with the receiving countries, especially in the European Union, to really understand what is their needs, what are our requirements post-COVID, as well as immigration regulation, and so that they can take appropriate measures in sending the workers, and obviously coordinate with agencies of receiving countries in preparing, labor in the coming period. So you can see that as in 2022, so this year, by the end of October 5th, so just 3 weeks ago, the Center of Overseas Labor has sent a very big amount of workers to Korea and some other countries. I'll have another chart coming, and 14 midwives to practice in Japan, and 108 nurses to study and work in Germany. So this is quite number as for just right post COVID, because normally nurses and caretakers to Germany, we have around like maybe 200. So 108 by October is not too bad, especially in providing that it's just post COVID period. So yeah, I just wanted to give you, in September alone, you can see that comparing with, so I put this table for obviously context. You can see that Taiwan, Japan, China, Singapore, Korea, sorry for the spelling on Russia, compare Poland or Russia, Hungary, these are three countries, in Europe, the amount of workers sent, it's very, very small comparing with Taiwan or Japan or even just China. But this is just in November, in September itself. For the whole 9 months of 2022, you can see it's very similar. If you compare with Japan or Taiwan, the amount of workers that we send is very, very low. There's a number of them in Poland, Russia, Hungary, Romania. So yeah, just for you for the context to see that, I think due to lack of MOUs and contracts and obviously very high requirements, they are not on the official database, but we know that they still obviously migrate. So one, I think, of the privileges and somehow also a strength of ISDS is the fact that we get to work a lot of this migrant women. And last time my colleagues have shared with me, we have a whole book about this, and some stories were about women migrating to Europe. However, I picked three, I think, a little bit specific ones as well, to also share with you so that you can actually understand the journey, like the motivation, the whole kind of journey to get there, and what some very special circumstances that they have to meet. So I apologize. I just literally put the whole story. I didn't even shorten it, but I thought it would be easier for everybody to follow also on the text. So this is the story of, I think that was in the news everywhere, and we have that shook really the world, of 39 people in the SEA lorry, and they are actually from the same province where we just finished the project. So it's the central Vietnam in Ha Tinh, and among 39 people were 8 women as well. And one of the interesting things about this is we actually, post this incident, we actually went to the same province, and some of the villages where we were, there were people, there was 1 or 2 people in this lorry who were obviously were victims of this. They were from the same locality of where we conducted our project, and we actually discussed with them whether this, would be something that would motivate them to take on this kind of journey, and would they consider this one of this kind of alarming or the kind of signs of maybe trying to consider different pathways. But surprisingly, a lot of them said that no, they would actually, this is the risk that you just have to accept, unfortunately. So it's very, very saddening. Obviously, this was all over the news, but we also have stories that we have gathered from our research and our different projects. So it's very long. If you would like to, I'm not probably going to read everything, but if you are interested, I can either send it to you later, or feel free to screenshot if you just like to read it later. But it's about this woman that just basically knew that she's going somewhere to Europe, but she didn't really know where. So her path, she just went to Hanoi, which is the capital, and that's where you go to get the visa. Everything was prepared for her. She went. They said, go on the plane. She went, they landed somewhere. She didn't even know which country she landed in. And then she said, they took her on the bus. In the car. She went on in the car. So basically the whole journey, she was in a lot of unknown. She didn't even know the name of the country that she was in at that point. She only knew that she wanted to reach England, which we know that's a very, very long journey. And from what she described to me, I understand that she was somewhere in Eastern Europe, and then she crossed the border illegally into like Schengen area, so that she can then travel to other countries and get to England. So probably one of ways, very similar pathways with the people from the lorry in the Essex incident. So She also said that she knew all the risks. She met another woman that was with another woman who was raped on the way. So there's a lot of this unfortunate incidents that women actually has to face. There's a lot of risk on the way, and they are actually kind of unaware of this risk and also don't have much information. And she was jailed. The car that she was in was stopped, where where she later realized it was Poland, south of Poland, and then she was jailed there. She actually very much enjoyed her stay in Poland. She said the guards were very handsome and the food was actually good, and they were nice to her. And she said that she was indoors for 3 months, so her skin was glowing. She was actually having very good experience there, which you find something positive, I guess, in a very bad experience. But she was told to not tell her real name, so that they can't deport her. But this didn't work out. She did this for 3 months, and then eventually she knew that it's not going to work for her. And then so she said what her name was and where she's from particularly, and then she was sent back to Vietnam. And when she reached Vietnam, obviously she couldn't get any compensation. She didn't get any money back, and she spent like 10 to 15,000 US dollars back then, which was her stories from like around 8 years ago. So so you can see that. I think from this one story, you can say you can I think conclude a lot about what they know, actually what they don't know, and how willing they are to go, and how trusting they are toward everybody, and how difficult the journey to reach to the destination actually is. But they actually don't mind it. Maybe sometimes because you don't know, you are not scared, but it's a very very kind of sad story. Similarly, there's also another one. I'm just going to speak to this one first, who also said that the journey was very, very difficult. So she said once this woman actually made it to England in 2004, she spent a lot of money, 300 to 400 million Vietnam dong, is around $15,000 to $20,000 back in 2004, which was obviously a lot. She borrowed it. She took her 2 years to pay back, and she only started saving the third year. But she said she had no problems because she met good people. So also that tells us that the network that we have around and the support system is extremely important. So women that are in more vulnerable positions or need these unfortunate events or are at risk of violence or need the violence, are actually women that do not have a lot of this kind of support. So this, and maybe not, they didn't have good agent, because from what this woman says, the agent even said that in serious cases you have to contact the Vietnamese embassy and so on. Although she didn't actually, none of these women that we talked to actually had legal documents. But again, with her, she said that the path, like the journey to get to England, was extremely difficult. This I mentioned this. I wanted to mention the story is because she although her life in England was pretty good, she left it after only 3 years. And remember that she only started generating savings in her third year, and that was because she couldn't find a match, and she was already 27 years old. And so, kind of having family, getting married was one of the also very important aspects. And she couldn't find anybody during her journey, either in Germany or in England. So, she returned home because she couldn't find a match, or she couldn't find anyone to get married. And the last story is about a woman who went to Russia. Obviously, she has relatives. She speaks about her, also this kind of motivation, always thinking about Europe as a dream place to go to, and where there's like this kind of promise of having a really good income and living in that kind of developed countries. But obviously, reality, the working condition, and as well as living condition, is extremely poor. Dr. Lanang Han actually has the whole book about migrant workers in Russia, which is very interesting. So I would highly recommend if you'd like to explore that particular group. But yeah, so you can see that also the same issue, not having working very hard, not really getting a lot of income, running from the police a lot because also they don't have legal status over there. But this person had a very good employer and she stick with for some time. But again, 3 years was the kind of maximum that she could push. And she returned to Vietnam again to get married. And then she decided to go to Taiwan for migration. So yeah, so just wanted to share these three stories. And these are some of the things I think that give out of them. They choose partially undocumented path. So why was I saying partially? Because they do board on the plane and fly somewhere to Europe. So they do have a legal status up to somewhere, right? Very often, some countries that are neighboring with the country that is within the Schengen. But then they have to take on those pathways because they very often do not meet employment criteria, such as the skills or foreign language. They do not speak the foreign language. That for example, if you go to Germany, you have to be B2 level. You have to have particular experiences and skills like we talked about in the case of Romania. So they have just very high expectations. So like I said, the dream of living in a developed country and receiving this higher salary. They don't have this knowledge regarding the risk, the journey, and legal aspects of the migration. They have been also illegally recruited by the agents or some individuals, and even false, very often giving this false information. And obviously they have the very interesting aspect is that they have very little agency over the remittances, because once you go to Europe and you return back, if you're on the advocacy, if you don't have documents, it's very unlikely that they will return while they're still working, because then it's very hard to come back to the country. So if they gain the status, have work visa or some sponsorship, they will then can go back to their home country and visit. But that's not the case with everyone. So they actually remain in these countries for a very long time, generate as much money as they probably can or wish for or hope for. And then once they decided to go home, that's kind of the end, right? Like, this is it, like, so a lot of others, women say 10 years maybe would be a good kind of landmark for them to actually decide to go home, because that's what they got enough savings, or like they have to also have the plan before they leave to make sure that they have enough savings now to actually to go back home and start a business, or have enough savings to provide for them in the future. So I don't know if I have time, but except for this, I wanted to mention one pathway that we're also doing research on.
Can you run?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I can also skip this, but it's called the triple win case. Yeah, so it's a triple win, and I think if you even Google this, it's very common. Like it's kind of well known if you look at skilled migration. But yeah, there's also very easily searchable information. So there's nothing that is really new about it. But this is something that younger people do it more. So there are, there's obviously there's MOU, there's a contract, there's a pathway. You can actually recruit much more skilled. You can also recruit skilled young, migrants who meet the criteria. So this is also the table which compares. We have the official program, which is obviously in blue in the middle column, and then there's another one that is obviously if you have official program, there will be also unofficial program. So there's a little bit of comparison among both of them. But yeah, there's a big promise, and this is a woman who went to Japan but now wants to Germany because she believes that Germany is even better. There's more prospects and less stress, and I'm not sure about that, but that's kind of the perception they have about this. I think that's it for me. Thank you so much, and sorry for taking so much time.
Thank you very much to share very comprehensive view. As you say, you said you don't have much information, but you have told us a lot actually about the situation of women going to Vietnam. Sorry, from Vietnam to Europe. Now we go to our next speaker, Joanna Garnier, who is with La Strada, one large organization working on, I think, sex work and trafficking and migration in Europe. Correct me if I am wrong, and is also one of the members of the Global Alliance on Trafficking of Women. Please, Joanna.
Hi, hello, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Joanna Garnier and I represent La Strada Foundation in Poland. It's Foundation Against Trafficking in Persons and Slavery. And we deal with all forms of trafficking, starting from sexual exploitation through forced labor, slavery-like practices, and all forms of human trafficking. I'm going to present shortly the results of our research and some general conclusions, remarks, which was made in frames of the project from Southeast Asia to Europe. And so, as I mentioned, we had a small research among Asian women. It was among women from Filipinos, Indonesia, and Vietnam. And first, I'd like to say that it would be a misuse to formulate results on the base of our research, because only 4 Vietnamese women we were able to ask to make interviews. We were promised with 10 interviews, but at last we were managed only with 4. The Vietnamese community in Poland is pretty big. I read it's the 3rd biggest community of Vietnam people in Europe, after France, Germany. Vietnamese are visible and rather noticed as nice, friendly people, but the community is really closed. What I can say about our research, I will try to say some general remarks. We were asking women between 34 and 38 years old, staying in Poland from 5 to 17 years. They decided to come to Poland especially for work, but also to join the family. And their travel was arranged by families mostly, not agencies, not corporates, private people, families, uncle, husband, cousin, somebody who already lived in Poland. 2 of them come to Poland illegally, one with the Bulgarian visa and one with Polish. I asked Polish embassy for figures concerning number of people applying for visas and coming to Poland with visa, but I didn't receive it yet. If I have, I can send it to you. And women in Poland work mostly in places as restaurants, shops, and beauty parlor, manicurists. It's very popular and much cheaper than others. And the women interviewed by us declared that it's okay to work in restaurant, to work as one was tailor, and the tailor told that in Vietnam she was also the tailor. And as I can notice, it's the most popular places to work for Vietnamese women. All of them declared that they were very eager to come to Europe, but at last they were disappointed with Poland. And what is also similar, what is also common, the language barrier. And I understand it very, very well, because the first thing, Polish is really difficult, but Polish is also discouraging to learn. I know many people who start to learn Polish and they are really full of hope, but after a few lessons they say, oh no, it's impossible. So I observe Vietnamese people working in Poland and not speaking even basic Polish. And I thought first that they are new, because new people coming all the time. But after our interviews, after talking to our cultural mediator, I see that some of them live in Poland many years and not speak Polish. And now I know why. So there is also a group of young Vietnamese speaking very, very good Polish, but they were born here or they come to Poland when they were 3-5 years old. And they serve to others as translators. What more? So women we talk to were mostly cases so-called delegates sent to Poland with the task to earn money and sent to Vietnam. So it's a very popular mechanism. So I see the same among Polish who work in Netherlands or Germany. They are delegates to earn money and sent to Poland, to children or parents. Vietnamese women declare living practically only inside the group, inside Vietnamese group. Being honest, we can't say the word integration with Polish society. These young people who are born here are integrated, but being honest, they are Polish. The Vietnamese, even they live more than 10 years, live inside the group, and newcomers are very quickly absorbed in the group. I think the group is fulfilling all their needs. What more? Okay, the other thing, it's Poland as a country and as a system. All women declared that Poland is not very friendly. They declared problems with formalities, with cards, and unfriendly clerks. It's true. It's true. And what I have to say that Poland is not very eager to invite migrants. And not only Vietnamese. I think Polish government and Polish system is not very eager to invite each migrants. Now, during the war, the situation is a little bit different, but migrants from other countries, work migrants, economical migrants are not very well seen. Some people, some Vietnamese people are still illegally in Poland. And my personal reflection is that the Polish state is not able to count people, to count Vietnamese, and is not able to say something more about this minority. There is several Vietnamese societies, several groups, but they cooperate with the embassy of Vietnam, which is not very well seen in Poland as a regime, as a communist regime. And they show the beautiful Vietnam, this society. They show beautiful Vietnam. And at the beginning of our project, we try to make them interested in the research, to make them interested in the project. And it was the situation of, oh, call later, call later, call later. And I've lost the hope. So we decided to stay with our cultural mediator, who is, she's cooperating with the independent Vietnamese society and not very well seen in Vietnam. So the conclusion is that the Vietnamese minority is big and well seen, but closed and not interested in integration. This is my conclusion, but of course we are going to try as much as possible. And so what I can say for the end, there is a very good Polish movie I would like to recommend you to watch. The title is Hanoi Warsaw. It's a short movie, about half hour, about a young Vietnamese girl traveling to Warsaw to her fiancé. It's a movie from 2009, and it shows partly the Vietnamese community in Poland, but also the way of migration. And what more? We had in the past few Vietnamese cases with Vietnamese people, male and female, mostly cases very young, sent to Poland to earn money. And one of these cases were succeed because this girl stayed in Poland and she's owner of two restaurants. But concerning others, the people decided to move to Germany or to France. Okay, more or less, that's everything. Thank you.
Leah, you mute.
Oh, sorry. So thank you very much, and also thank you for the suggestion of the movie. We will try to find it. Indeed, sounds very relevant. So we go now to Mariko, and maybe you can introduce briefly your organization working with at the community level, like you were telling me before, with Asian women, and then focusing a bit about your experience with Vietnamese and Asian women, please, in the UK.
Thank you very much, Leah. And thank you very much for having me today. And it's already been very informative for the previous speakers. And my name is Mariko, and I've got a presentation as well. So I think I will try to share it now, and I hope you can see the full screen. Yes, so I work for an organization called SEA-Junction. It's short for Southeast and East Asian Center. We are a community-based grassroots organizations led by and for migrants and refugees or people seeking asylum from Southeast and East Asian countries who are living in the UK, as well as their families and people of these heritages. And today, on this occasion, I would like to, I think in the context of the Vietnamese women migrating to Europe for work, I would like to put a bit of focus on the impact of UK immigration policies that impact the lives of women migrant workers, particularly those people who are coming from Asia Pacific region, including Vietnam. And I just wanted to say in the beginning that as we focus on Vietnamese women's experiences in this session, wanted to highlight the very obvious things that there are so many different experiences among Vietnamese women who migrate to the UK for work. And I know a lot of Vietnamese women here who are very successful academically, professionally, and financially. But I think in this conversation that we are having today, we are focusing on the women who are in a little bit more precarious and vulnerable situations, and who are coming from probably a little bit more marginalized communities in Vietnam, or marginalized within the Vietnamese migrant community. And I wanted to focus on the UK immigration system or policies that systemically put many migrant women, not only Vietnamese women, but a lot of Asian migrant women into such precarious and vulnerable situations. And it's also a reflection of our feminist participatory action research that Joanna also mentions. I was part of it together with the GAATW, a global alliance against trafficked women. So I want to also reflect on what we heard from women through that project. And I just also wanted to mention in the beginning that I'll be also talking a little bit about women in asylum process in the UK. It's because in our research, many women who were in asylum process, especially Vietnamese women, they identified themselves being trafficked to work. So they said that they think they were trafficked to work in the UK or in Europe, and ended up in the asylum system in the UK at the moment. And they also express their needs and desires to work. So I also want to talk about them as well. And here just a few quotes from the Vietnamese women we spoke during our research project. And these are all coming from women, either who are identified, who've been already identified as victims of trafficking, or waiting for the decisions to be made on their case, either it's asylum or the trafficking case. So just quickly, I'll read it out. One person said, "Sometimes I feel useless, I can do nothing, I don't have permission to do anything." And the other woman said, "I think even if the Home Office is unable to accept our asylum applications at the moment, they should allow us to work. And this will help us improve our English competency and develop our knowledge of the local life, such as culture, lifestyle, and social norms. And this is much beneficial than giving us 35 or 40 pounds a week and making us just stay at home." And another woman said, I also need to have time. Having a young kid means that I don't have time. No one helps me looking after the kid, and I really want to work. And I hope that my following sort of explanations will give a little bit of reason, understanding of reason why some women said this. And just to begin with, the first of all, in the UK, there are very limited visas that are available for people who come to the UK in order to work in lower paid work or in the sectors such as food production, manufacturing, cleaning and domestic work, hospitalities, caterings and beauties and other service industries that are very popular among women from Asia Pacific regions. And here are the list of, not all, there are other visas as well, but the very common visas that are used by people from Asia to enter or continue staying in the UK to work. And I'm not going to read it all, but as you can see, there are very strict requirements on employers that you have to work for employers that were approved by the UK Home Office, for example. There is requirements on minimum income or qualifications, and some visas are very short, only for a few months up to half year, and you cannot be renewed. It cannot be reviewed in the country. It means that you have to go out of the UK and reapply. And except the graduate visa, which is only available for people who have completed their degrees from the UK universities, except this one, you will have to have work already, or you've been offered the work in order to obtain a work permission. So you can see how there are very limited options available to begin with to legally and safely come to the UK work. So that limited options, because of the limited options, many people have no choice but to take irregular routes. That's been mentioned a lot of times by the previous speakers, as there was also talked about the SX39 case tragedy. It was just around this time of the October 23rd, 2019, I think it was 3 years ago. So there are a lot of people who have to choose irregular routes. And even for those who have entered UK legally, keep renewing their visa is also very challenging because of the extortionate visa fees. It's very expensive, and not just visa fee, but you have to also pay additional related costs. And there is a UK charity called the Migrant Voice who researched about the visa fees, and they found that the average cost of a single person to renew a 2.5-year visa would cost £2,593. And the consequences of that is many people become undocumented because they cannot afford to keep renewing the visas. And most of the temporary status holders are given no recourse to public funds condition attached to their visa. It means that they have no access to social protection such as housing and unemployment benefits, making it very difficult to survive financially once they lose their job or income. So yeah, these are the conditions, and we all know that having irregular immigration status and being financially insecure makes people very vulnerable to labor exploitations and abuse. So what will happen to people who face extreme cases of labor exploitations, such as modern slavery? And there is a framework for it. There is a national referral mechanism. It's a framework for identifying and referring potential victims of modern slavery and ensuring that they receive appropriate support. However, if a positive decision, even if the positive decision is granted through NRM, that you are identified as a victim, you may be granted status, but it's not to everyone. And even if you're granted a status to stay in the UK legally, it's normally no more than 2.5 years. And it's a very short time. It's not, a lot of time, it's not enough time for people who already have a lot of debt to finance their migrations, or it's not enough time to earn enough money that they have planned initially. So other than that, there are so many other reasons that national referral mechanism is not the best option for many people, because of the fact such as at the moment there's a long delays in decision making, and if your claim is rejected, there is a risk of detentions and deportation. and you don't have the rights to work while you're waiting for the decision. And I think in terms of the delay, I think in 2020, the average wait across all potential victims to receive the final decision was over 400 days, and you will not be given rights to work while you're waiting. And the situation is quite similar to those who are in asylum process, and the majority of asylum seekers do not have the rights to work in the UK while they are waiting for the decisions to be made. And housing can be provided, but they cannot choose where they will be living. And the cash support is available at £40.85 per person per week. And this has to cover all the food, sanitations and clothing. And it's quite similar with the people in national referral mechanism, depending on their situation, but it's around 35 to 65 pounds per week. And if you think about this, the UK's poverty line is 141 pounds a week. And the institution line is 70 pounds a week. So you can see how little this support is. And in terms of, particularly concerning women, there are also extra money available for people women who are pregnant or with a small child, but it's between £3 extra, £3 to £5 per week. So it's just, you probably can buy a cup of cappuccino somewhere. So you can see that there are very, very little support financially, particularly available. And being undocumented migrants in the UK is very, very difficult life, like many other countries, but in the UK context as well, especially for work and housing. It's not just illegal for undocumented migrants to work or rent property, but it's also a criminal offense for employers or a landlord who employ undocumented migrants or let their properties to undocumented people. And also it's extremely difficult to access healthcare. You might be given 150% of bills, depending on the, if it's a secondary or special care. It's very difficult for children to go to school, and there's no rights to education for those who are over 16 if you don't have legal status. And we all know that the fear of immigration law enforcement, detentions and deportation particularly is a very fearful, and people are fearful of this, and it's a barrier to seek support and assistance, and again put many undocumented migrants at the risk of exploitations and abuse. So there we have made a little bit of recommendations based on our research, which we also brought to the UPR advocacy process. But the thing is, we are calling for the UK government to make the necessary legal policy and practice related changes to allow migrant workers to change their employers, renew their visa in the country without risking their immigration status, and to ensure all the potential victims of trafficking and people seeking asylum are given sufficient financial support in order for them to live life with dignity and free from poverty, and also so that they can realize their rights to decent work as well while they're waiting for the decisions to be made. And also all migrants' fundamental human rights to be protected regardless their immigration status. So just very lastly, quickly, I also wanted to talk a little bit about our work with the migrant communities, including Vietnamese migrant communities. While there are so many gaps in policies and public support services available for the precarious migrants and people who are in more vulnerable situations, we have some community activities. There, I've just put the ones that are in Vietnamese. I hope some of the colleagues here can also read, but we have some English classes, very popular. And also we do some information sessions on employment rights as well. We support people to get access to healthcare services, particularly during COVID. We've supported a lot of migrants, particularly without documents, to be able to get vaccination. And we also have a program specifically for women who are survivors of gender-based violence and exploitations. And in terms of employment rights, actually, we not only work with the workers, but we also engage a lot with employers, and including Vietnamese employers who own nail salons and other businesses, so that the employers also are aware of the workers' rights as well. So that's all for me for now. If you're interested in our work, you can please do visit our website, and I'm looking forward to just discussing further after this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And indeed, this give a very important angle to the whole migration discourse. Indeed, our states make it extremely difficult for people to really be in a regular position. We see this in Thailand all the time for migrants coming from Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia. The regulation itself is what creates the vulnerability of the migrants, and this again lead to exploitation, etc. So I will open the floor. We will take 3 questions if there are anyone who wants to. I know there is a researcher who has done research from Bulgaria. Maybe you can be our first contributor. I have also a question from Seb. Question for Mariko. Given the most recent Vietnamese migrants to the UK are male, does your organization see any differences between Vietnamese men and women regarding how successful their asylum and RM application are? So this is a question. Another question is also related, being so difficult, and this is general, not only for Mariko, but it is stimulated by the difficulty in accessing the visa, being so difficult to get a regular labor visa. Is marriage migration easier route, and what are the consequences of that? So I will first give the floor to Diana, and then please answer these 2 questions. Diana? Or she disappear maybe. Okay, so please then answer the question from Seb.
Is that a question about the, should I answer on the question on the?
Yes, please, about whether you see a difference between male and female migrants with regards to asylum.
Thank you, Seb. Since we are a community organizations and not really following all the legal cases, it's a bit difficult for me to say that. But we've met quite a lot of women asylum seekers who are either pregnant or have very small children. So it might provide a different sort of outcome, not particularly the asylum cases, but for people to be able to stay longer and be supported by the public sort of assistance but should be quite different for male migrants who come in as a single person. So that's the only thing that I could say at the moment in terms of the rates. I don't know. I think we will just have to look into the information that are available through government. But I am so sorry, I don't know about this. But yeah, but just to say, I didn't mention this in my slide. I had this graph of national referral mechanism, people who were referred through the mechanism on trafficking, and actually Vietnamese is the second largest nationality group after apart from the UK. So it's a foreign national group, second largest groups in the UK for the last few years. So yeah, that's also highlights the volume of the issues within these communities as well.
Yeah, to the other speakers about the issue whether marriage migration is easier route when compared to the labor migration in the case of Europe. For instance, Thai migrants are mainly migrating to Europe through marriage. I am not sure whether it is love could be, but it's also what has been said, right? That is somewhat easier, the more restrictive the measure become in terms of labor migration, the more people will look for alternative ways. I am not sure for Vietnamese if this is the case. Any comments?
I can add to that too, just quickly also. But in the UK, the marriage migrant isn't very easy either. You don't get automatically visa, especially if you're coming from outside of the countries to get married, or you're just newly coming in as a sort of first time as a family member. There is an income requirement for yourself or your partners, or if you're coming from outside of the country, your partner is technically your sponsor. And I think at the moment you have to show that you have an income of 18,600 at least, in order to show that you don't have to rely on the public benefits. And also, again, the first visa is only 2.5 years and you have to renew it again. And after 5 years, you can apply for indefinite leave to remain, but that's again is another cost, and it's not guaranteed. So it's there are a lot of barriers to that as well, and it's just in general it's very difficult for anyone who it's not. I mean, it's different after Brexit, but thinking about before Brexit, it's very difficult for non-European migrants to come, even as a family members as well.
Thank you.
But once you're here, you have the rights to work, to do like any work that you want to do. So, that gives a bit more freedom. But again, if your relationship falls down, there's a case of domestic violence, and really your visa is tied to your partner. So that's also another risk of vulnerabilities that within your family, within home.
About Poland, can you tell us something?
So, in general, it's not easy to receive the stay permit. There are more than two ways, but the main opportunity to have legal stay is apply for employer. When employer applies for stay permit and the work permit for the person he or she is going to employ. And it's the most popular. And so I think for Vietnamese people, it's more or less not difficult because mostly cases they are employed in family businesses. So the person, the employer who is applying for the card, for the residence permit, is more or less familiar with the system. So I think it can be a little bit better situation. Many people from Asia come with agencies, and agencies apply for the legal stay, for the card. And in fact, there is no opportunity to change job because you are connected to your employer with the card. If you resign, if you don't want work more for this person, there is practically no opportunity to change work because your new employer has to apply for the card for you, for the new card. And the old employer has right to cancel your card. So during the time you wait for card, you are illegal. It creates situation of cheating, trafficking, and other forms of exploitation. Is the marriage easier? I don't know, maybe. If you apply first time for your first card on the base of marriage, it's not easy because you are checked and checked and checked many times. But if the person was here before for some time, 1 year, 2 years, and had the other car residence permit, for example, for human trafficking, it is easier because the person is not checked. Why I say it? Because some of our clients get married, and it was absolutely no problem with card, but they were here longer than 1-2 years. There is also the opportunity to apply for residence card as a victim of human trafficking. We support people with this, and it's good because as a victim, you have a free access to labor market, and you are allowed to change the employer. It's good. But what is not good in this situation? This card, this legal stay, this residence permit is issued for people who cooperate with the system of justice. When the trial is finishing, the person is obliged to leave Poland. Thanks God, our system of justice is very, very, very slow.
Yeah.
So it's good because of opportunity to prolongate the legal stay, but it's not good because of justice as such.
Thank you very
So
much.
it's a challenge. It's a challenge to receive the residence permit in Poland. Thank you.
Okay, and I want to give an opportunity for Jan. Jan, are you still? I see you must be in a train or something. And you are writing also something.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay.
Yeah, yes. I was typing because I didn't know. Yeah.
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 Share.
Yes, I was typing because I wasn't sure. Yes. So I just wanted to share, like, I obviously echo whatever Joanna and Mariko just mentioned, but from the perspective of the sending countries, we often the marriage migration is not as familiar or common as, for example, to Taiwan or to Macau or to China. The marriage migration to Europe. But there are kind of two pathways, and I think Joanna just mentioned that one, which is if you have a spouse that can have a status and can sponsor you, that's we have some migrant women that follow that path. Or another way is also once the woman is there, she can also get married to someone that has a status, and that's the way for her to obtain that legal status. So that's something that we have learned throughout our research.
Okay. So are there any other comments from the speakers or from the participants? No last minute question. If not, I want to thank all of you for contributing to this interesting session. I think I myself also learned a lot about the situation, and it's quite interesting because I was just listening to some other presentation about migrant women from Thailand to the UK recently, and there are some similarity to what has been said also in terms of what was said for Poland, that they are very well integrated within their own community, and that is where they found job, for instance, in Thai restaurant or other work within their own Thai community, but are much less integrated with the wider UK community. And if they are, it's often true because they are often married with UK citizen, then it is through their spouse or the family of of the spouse when they have to interact with the wider community. This was a study a colleague of mine has done at IPSR at Maidon University, which is still not published, but it was a survey of more than 200 and more Thai women in the UK. So it's quite interesting to compare about this close but at the same time fully functioning community of migrant women in Europe. With this, we finish about Vietnam, sadly, but we will continue with the series. The next one will be about migration from the Philippines to Europe, and the last one will be about migration from Thailand to Europe. So please continue to follow us, and we look forward to interact with you further. Thank you. Special thanks for Ong, who stay with us in spite of difficult family circumstances, and for Ong Yan, who stay with us while traveling. And of course, thanks to our friends in Europe. Again, thank you to the Global Alliance for partnering with us, and see you soon next month on the Philippines case. Bye-bye.